Hi, am I audible?
Hello. Hello,
Yes,
Suresh
ma'am.
Singh ji.
Am I audible to you?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Just give us a couple of minutes. We are waiting for more participants to join in, and then we will start our seminar.
Yeah, okay, sure.
Sir, good afternoon.
Good evening, diagnostic owners. We at Connected Edge welcome you all to our webinar, Diagnostics 2.0 in COVID-19 times. Today, we are going to discuss the changes that have been brought about by COVID-19 pandemic and how can diagnostic centers owners adapt to these new normal to sort of ensure that they are at the forefront of meeting customers' expectations. Before doing that, I would like to take this opportunity to introduce Connected Edge briefly to you. So Connected Edge is a diagnostic focused company, and we help diagnostic center owners to exceed the ever evolving expectation of their patients. So far, we have worked with 50 plus diagnostic centers, and through them, we have been able to touch the lives of around 16 lakh plus patients. In this vision, we have been backed by healthcare veterans like Rohit Ame, who is MD of Cloud9 Hospitals, and Anurag Gupta, who is ex-India MD of GE Healthcare, as well as founders who have actually established and built multi-million-dollar companies like founders of 1mg, ShareChat, 91 Mobiles, and early-stage VCs like FirstCheck, etc. As I mentioned in the beginning, that COVID-19 has brought in a lot of uncertainties in the lives of everyone, and diagnostic sector has not been left untouched. It has brought a lot of hardships for diagnostic entrepreneurs like you across the spectrum, irrespective of the size of operations, irrespective of the.
मतलब वो म्यूट करना करेंगे तो उस साइन पर क्रॉस आउट म्हणता कि नाही आउट
Somebody's mic is on. Kindly please turn it off. Thank you. So as I was saying, on the COVID-19 pandemic has brought in a lot of changes, and diagnostic sector has not been left untouched, which has brought upon a lot of hardships for diagnostic entrepreneurs like you, irrespective of the size, scale of operations, the specialty of operations, as well as the geography of operations. And today, we are going to talk about these changes, the new normal that has been brought about by COVID-19 pandemic, and in what ways does diagnostic centers need to adopt to cater to the new expectations of patients. To discuss these things in detail, and today we are fortunate enough to have two diagnostic veterans along with us, and I would like to take this opportunity to introduce them one by one. Our first panelist is Dr. Vidur Mahajan. Dr. Vidur Mahajan currently heads Caring, which is working in the domain of artificial intelligence and machine learning to reduce the workload of radiologists. But more importantly, in the context of today's discussion, Vidur is also Associate Director of Mahajan Imaging. And as most of you would know, Mahajan Imaging is one of the premier service providers in radiology imaging in Delhi NCR.
Microphone on, microphone pe gaya.
And Vidur has overseen the adaptation journey that Mahajan Imaging went through, because it was a brand which was established in the old economy, so to say, pre-internet economy, and it has successfully evolved into a latest diagnostic center which has adopted new mediums. Before that, Dr. Vidur has has completed his MBA from US, from Waterloo School of Management, and completed his MBBS from Lokmanya Tilak Medical College from Mumbai. Our second panelist is someone who has actually built a brand in diagnostic space from scratch within a very short period of time. Our second panelist is Mr. Anuj Mittal. He is ex-co-founder of Healthians, and before he started Healthians, he had the experience of more than 15 years in while managing different brands and operations of companies like Nestle and P&G. And he's also an alumnus of prestigious institutes like IIM Lucknow and IIT Delhi. So as I mentioned, that COVID-19 pandemic has changed a lot of things in diagnostic ecosystem. And before we start our panel discussion, I would like to sort of take this opportunity to quantify the impact that this pandemic has brought upon in diagnostic space. And I would first of all start on a positive note today, right? The diagnostic industry in India, depending upon the source that you read from, is somewhere in the range of $12 to $15 billion, which in Indian rupee terms comes out to be around 1,13,000. And the great thing here is that it has been growing at a CAGR of around 15 to 16%, which is around 4 times of the current GDP growth rate, right? But the most critical aspect of this thing is that around 85% of this whole diagnostic demand is served by individual diagnostic centers like us, right? And these bigger brands like Lal Path Lab and SRL or Thyrocare have only been able to capture only 15% of the market so far. So we are, in a way, the flag bearers of taking these diagnostic services to the masses. But at the same time, what COVID has sort of made very clear is the importance of having a strong brand. In the aftermath of the nationwide lockdown that was imposed by the government, we saw an immediate drop of around 90% in the demand at individual diagnostic centers. But these larger chains like Lal Path,
Suresh, you'll have to share your again.
sorry.
Sorry to stop. You have to share your PPT again.
Okay.
You have to share your PPT again.
Understood. Let me just check here. I will stop it. I will do it again. Is it visible now?
Yep, perfect.
Okay.
Yes, it's visible.
Yeah, thank you. So as I was saying, that COVID-19 pandemic has made it very clear the importance of having a strong brand. So individual diagnostic center had suffered a drastic drop in demand of around 90% in the aftermath of the nationwide lockdown that was imposed by the government. But at the same time, even though these larger chains also suffered some drastic impact in the demand for diagnostic services, that was limited to around 80%, right? And it is very natural to sort of understand the psyche of consumers in a time where there is so much uncertainty. In such times, people go for the comfort of something that they already know or are already familiar with. Now, coming back to the drop in the diagnostic demand. As we know, diagnostic is still a prescription-led business. Around 90% of it is driven by prescription of doctors. And a drop in diagnostic demand was a direct function in the drop of OPDs and doctor consultations. Except for the treatments which were either time-bound, like say pregnancy, or very critical urgent care, most of the consultations were put on hold across practices, across specialties. The upside of this thing is that diagnostic demand has not vanished per se. It has merely shifted in the future. And that is where the key or the silver lining for us or diagnostic entrepreneurs lie, right? In a survey, more than 80% of the respondents said that they have rescheduled their care events, right? And I am a personal example of this 80% people, because I have been postponing my RCT for the past couple of months just because I don't want to venture out and risk, my family getting affected. And that has actually been shown in the recovery that we have seen with our partner diagnostic center. So remember the earlier graph wherein I showed 90% drop in the diagnostic demand. This is the complete graph that we have been able to plot so far. And as you can see, as the restrictions have been eased in the lockdown and the country has started to go through the phases of unlock, the diagnostic demand has also jumped back. At the end of June, the diagnostic demand was at levels of around 75% of the pre-lockdown levels in March. So that is a great sign for all of us entrepreneurs. But the thing is, at the same time, COVID-19 pandemic has changed a lot of things. The things that we used to take for granted, they have been changed. And the biggest shift has been in terms of consumer behavior. Now people have become much more aware in terms of their health and hygiene. More so because COVID-19 becomes even more critical if you have comorbidities, right? So people are now more aware. But at the same time, the likelihood or the tendency for people to actually go online and do transactions have increased manifold, because people have been locked down within the confines of their home and they don't want the risk. They don't want to take the risk of going outside, right? And we have seen this in companies like, say, NetMeds, in companies like 1mg and Pharmacy, wherein the transactions have gone up by 100% within a span of a couple of weeks. Accordingly, there are going to be the 5 major broad shifts that diagnostic centers have to prepare for. One is that there is going to be a medium-term spike in demand of all the latent demand, which has not come to the market in the past couple of months. Then We have to sort of focus on creating brand which communicate trust and confidence to our consumer, to our patients. And finally, we have to adopt digital mediums because these are going to be a new normal where we are going to find patients. And these are the key areas where, as a diagnostics owner, you will have to work in the future. Right. Accordingly, if I have to encapsulate what are going to be the 4 priorities in front of any diagnostic entrepreneur, these are going to be these 4. First of all, they have to create a brand, as I mentioned earlier, which communicates trust, which communicates quality, which communicates credibility. We have to optimize our operations so as to ensure that the leakage is minimal, right? Because every penny counts, every patient counts for us. Thirdly, we have to adopt to the new normal of digital mediums. Diagnostic and healthcare in general has been lagging behind compared to other sectors as far as adoption of new mediums is concerned. But now we have to accelerate our pace. And finally, and that this goes without saying, that diagnostic centers will have to, first of all, observe all the COVID safety precautions, but more importantly, communicate the same to their patients. And here again, digital mediums are going to be very important. Now, first, I'm going to talk about the importance of digital mediums, right? Now, the thing is, initially, it was thought that digital or online mediums are of the purview of only people who are on the top of socioeconomical classes. But with the advent of Jio and the cheap internet that it has afforded to pretty much every citizen in the country, these things have penetrated across socioeconomical classes. Now, these were the outcome of the surveys that we did in urban slums, wherein the household income was less than 25,000, and the number of people in household varied from 6 to 8 per household. Right here, as you can see, around 62% of people have access to internet, even though they are at the lowest strata of socioeconomic classes. And at the same time, around 85% of these people have done at least one online transaction. So to think that online is now something that is very limited to only people who are relatively better off financially is thinking of the past. We have to adopt to the new normal. And this is laid bare, even in the strategy of these larger players like Lal PathLabs and Metropolis, because they see digital as the key focus area by which they can actually create a differentiation compared to other brands and individual diagnostic centers, and also as a medium which will enable them to meet the expectation of their patients. Now, I'm going to talk about the importance of building a brand. Now, there are 2 key facts that I'm going to share. First, that around 50% of the patients don't remember the diagnostic center they visited last time for their services. But at the same time, around 72% of respondents of the same survey said that they consider the brand of the diagnostic center as among the top priority for choosing a diagnostic center. You see the contradiction here? And the fact that among the 50% who don't know, the share of those people actually increases drastically as the times in the last test increases. In case of people who have undergone tests in the last 1 month, the share of people who don't remember the name of the diagnostic center is 25%. But it more than doubles to around 64% if the time frame has increased to around 6 months. Also, the thing that we need to sort of highlight and think about is that of the 50% people who do remember the name of the diagnostic center, 64% of them have actually visited either Lal PathLabs or Metropolis or SRL. Remaining is either captured by the online aggregators like 1mg, BookMary Lab, Gylo Health, or for standalone centers who have been able to create a brand for themselves, like say Mahajan Imaging or HOD in Delhi. So this is the key criteria or key reason that we should go ahead and work on building our brand. But at the same time, the next question that should come in one's mind is what are the parameters that people look for while defining a brand? And here again, we had some surprising findings. So the thing is the soft skills, like how does your staff behave with the patients, whether you are responsive to their queries or not, or whether you provide online services like online reporting or home sample collection. These matter much more compared to the medical qualifications of the center, be it in terms of the doctor who are working at the center, or be it in terms of the accreditations or certifications that we have, right? And just behind medical qualifications come the importance of your online image, which is currently judged by, first of all, your Google review ratings, right? As to what are the reviews or what is the public saying about you in the public domain, and also the status of your website, whether you are responsive on the website, whether all the information is available on the website or not. So these are the key areas that one has to work to create a brand which communicates credibility, which communicates confidence, right? But the thing is, how do you sort of ensure that even after putting in all the efforts, that our staff is living up to the expectations that patients have? And therefore, we have to adopt digital mediums at every touch point between a diagnostic center and the patient, right through its journey, right from when the patient is either visiting your website or calling your center to book a sample or book a diagnostic service, to home sample collection, to report delivery, to the end when we are taking a stock of their overall experience. Because if we are able to do that, we will take care of the another biggest factor that people consider while they are inquiring about different diagnostic center, while they are judging the quality of a diagnostic center, all while they are choosing a diagnostic center, which is the positive word of mouth from either their family or friends, right? This factor particularly consistently varies above 70% in all the stages that a patient goes through before going to a diagnostic center, right? Our second priority, as I mentioned earlier, is that we have to minimize leakage. And leakage could be of any kind. The leakage could be on the website. When patient comes and drops in a lead for a particular service and we don't follow up. Leakage could be in the form of when someone calls your center for a service and there is no follow-up from our side. Leakage could be in terms of the working relationships that we have built with our doctors and when they have referred a patient which doesn't visit us. And finally, the leakage could be in the terms of people or patients rather, which we have lost out because they had some bad experience and we didn't have the visibility to address their concerns. Finally, the thing which can make the biggest delta for individual diagnostic centers is, and where they actually lag far behind of bigger brands like Lal Path Labs and SRL, is in terms of the number of times a patient visits them. This ratio currently stands at around 5%, for individual diagnostic centers. But the potential is to increase this ratio to 30%. And if you go by the numbers that the larger labs or larger brands have been able to achieve, it is 50%, right? And for that, we need to have tools. We need to have the visibility by which we can proactively identify the needs of chronic patients or patients who require long-term care, for example, say pregnancy, and later on use new age technologies like AI and machine learning to identify future requirements based on the historic conditions of the patient. Now, I'm going to initiate the discussion with our panelists, and I'm going to start first with Dr. Vidur Mahajan. Vidur?
Yeah, thanks Suresh for having me, and thanks for this beautiful presentation. I had never seen it before, and it's quite revealing because पहले कहते थे कि अच्छा काम करो बाकी सब खुद हो जाएगा. but clearly digital can give a big jump to things. So cool, thanks for having me here. Thank you so much.
Our pleasure, Vidur. Our pleasure that we have 1 hour of your complete time and we can take a break.
आजकल तो वेले बैठे हैं यार.
So Vidur, before I actually talk about the impact that digital mediums can have, I just wanted to get your sense, because you have been at the forefront of combating that slump in demand because of COVID-19 pandemic. And what was your experience so far? Given my understanding that you also started doing testing for COVID-19 when the opportunity came.
So like everyone on this call and off this call, like when COVID-19 hit us, demand went close to zero, right? Like, and we were at Mahajan Imaging, we were close to 5 to 7% revenue. So for the last 1 week of March and almost entire April, it was close to zero revenue, primarily because, we only do imaging, or we only did imaging. And for imaging, people need to walk into our centers. And, it was completely locked down. So out of our 9 centers, 5 are standalone. And out of those 5, 4 were shut for entire of, April. And then mid-May, we started opening up a little bit. The hospitals were also khali, like all OPDs were stopped, everything was stopped. So it was very, very difficult times. And, we, all the people on this call who run imaging also can relate to this, that it's we all have our EMIs to pay all the time.
Exactly. Yes.
And luckily, RBI came up with that moratorium wala funda, which like is a bit of a double-edged sword. You can delay your payments, but interest will accrue. But it became a very bad cash flow issue for everyone, for the entire world. Actually, it was a cash crunch situation. So we availed of that facility. So all our loans are now delayed by 6 months. Had to do varying levels of cost cutting, several things. And then, we have been running a very advanced genomics lab for about 1 year now, where we did next generation sequencing, all those very, very expensive, difficult kind of tests, where we had a RT-PCR machine, we had a BSL-282 hood, we had RNA extractors, we had like everything that was needed to start COVID testing. And तब हमने सोचा यार कि there were many well-wishers on the pathology lab side of ours, good friends of ours, who kind of convinced us कि यार you should jump into the COVID testing. कि मतलब मेरे ऑफिस में तो वी से भसड़ because there is no other way of describing it, and वो अंदर घुस के ही पता चलता है. But we decided to jump in, and now I think we are about 5 weeks into testing for COVID-19, and it's a survival strategy. I had never imagined that we will be testing for infectious diseases and all of that, because for us, it's a very important image management issue also, because people walk into our centers and there are no COVID patients that are actually coming to our centers. All of these samples are primarily government ke samples that we are just processing for them. So there was that element also of managing the perception कि अच्छा अब आप COVID testing भी कर रहे हो, so is it now unsafe? So then we had to train our staff and also show patients a lot of the effort that we were putting into do social distancing and masks and hand hygiene, and I think everyone is doing this. Like sometimes we also do things that I don't scientifically agree with. वो इधर उधर spray कर दिया, 70% alcohol दीवारों पर डाल रहे हैं, ये it's really not useful or needed. But it was a marketing thing, and we are still currently also we are at only 40-50% of revenue, because we run imaging in Gangaram Hospital, Fortis Vasant Kunj. Both of them are COVID hospitals. When your hospital becomes a COVID hospital, no patient comes to your hospital. So those are the challenges, but I'm sure everyone is facing these challenges, and everyone is trying to work out different survival strategies. मतलब अभी तो सिर्फ it's about survival यार कि मतलब how do you just keep running a little bit. So yeah, that's our story. I can keep talking for jitna bhi time.
Yeah. So Vidhu, related question on that, or rather unrelated in a way. So as I mentioned earlier, that you oversaw the transition of Mahajan Imaging from working in the old ways to adopting new digital mediums and everything. So how was that journey like? And given that healthcare is a sector which is a bit orthodox. Right, compared to other sectors. So there are certain inherent challenges or inertia, so to say, in adopting these solutions. So what were those challenges, and how did you address that?
I think I can actually tell you this through the COVID wala example, right? It's the COVID testing. So we did not have an LIS at all. right, in our lab, because genomics lab we would do 25, 30, 40 samples a month, matlab not even per day. And suddenly, on day one of starting COVID testing, we got 120 samples. And हमारा तो दिमाग ही घूम गया कि तो मतलब we are a lab that is meant for 5-day workflows. So genomics is very, very different from routine lab work. So then and we had always been planning an LIS, but then we worked with our HIS company, and in a day we were able to create systems which enabled us to now process close to 250 to 300 samples a day. And it is all because of technology, right? It would be impossible. I have some 20 people working on the data at the same time. Now your backend has to be so strong that changes need to reflect at a millisecond basis, right? Because you have so many interdependencies. वो RT-PCR app भी चालू है, साथ में SRF भी generate हो रहा है, and then साथ में collection भी log हो रही है. Then there is finance, then there is the actual lab workflow, then there is reporting, billing, फिर उसके बाद uploading to ICMR. So various steps, all of which are only possible because of technology. Now I'm telling you this whole story because this was necessary, right? And we needed to inject technology into our workflows. Otherwise, we would have just fallen flat. हमारे पास 200 सैंपल आ जाते, हमारे सामने there would be a box with 200 COVID samples in it, and we would not know what to do. Right. So that is the thing I've realized is, even when we were transitioning Mahajan Imaging from a relatively less digital organization to a completely digital organization, we had time. We had like 5 years, right? But in the COVID situation, we had 5 hours. बिकॉज लिटरली वो सैंपल्स हमारे पास आ गए. अब मैं उसको कहाँ से LIS नंबर, वो मेरा लेबल ही इतना बड़ा है, वो वायल पे ही नहीं लगता. So those kind of things needed to be figured out, and luckily we work with good people. We have our own engineering team also and stuff like that, so we were able to pull these things off. So hence we were able to digitize to a great degree. But my thing is that unless and until you need to digitize, getting, like, you take the telemedicine example also. Indian government has now come up with telemedicine guidelines. कब से लगे हुए हैं लोग यार, 15 साल से लगे हुए हैं, right? For 15 years people are trying to get telemedicine guidelines out, and COVID made it happen. So so I think this is a good opportunity for everyone to think about cost cutting using technology, think about getting in revenue. Like now much of our payments are actually prepayments. In healthcare services, it was impossible. People would get the scan done and then say, and then pay. Now at the time of booking, we send our customers a payment link, and we also send them a digital consent form. It's nothing. It's a Google form, simple, right? It's nothing fancy. Payment link is also Razorpay. They give you the opportunity to create your own payment link. But we send these to the patients, and most patients pay at the time of booking, because they don't. We want to avoid our front desk person meeting every patient, right? So people are very happy doing it. So I think whoever can, transform very, very quickly will maybe survive longer than others, because we don't know when this will end. Now, so all of us, how long can we survive on negative cash flow? So but yeah, these are just some of the examples and learnings that we've had.
Great. Thanks, Udo. Anuj?
Hi, Suresh. I'm here. Suresh, I can't hear you. I cannot hear you.
Am I audible now?
Some network issue.
Okay, I think I can hear you now.
Am I audible to you? I just want to figure out if the problem is at hand or is that-
Can't make out.
Someone who like that,
I can't understand anything.
please take us through the-
Hey Anuj,
Yes.
let me know if you can
I
hear me.
you.
Oh, okay. Am I
I can
audible
hear you.
now?
Hi.
Yes, both of you are audible now.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Understood. So Anuj, I was saying that you are someone who actually built a brand from scratch in diagnostic ecosystem, right? And the special thing about Healthians is that Healthians was able to achieve so in such a short span of time that pretty much every diagnostic center, the owner that I met was always curious to know as to what is the secret sauce of Healthians, right? So could you take us through that journey as to how did you go about building that brand and what were the initial challenges that you faced and how did you go about solving them?
Sure. So I think before going there, I would refer back to one of your slides.
Okay.
Was on the repeat ratio,
Hmm.
which you said that most individual diagnostic centers have a repeat ratio of 5%. Branded labs like Dr. Lal and SRL, etc., around 50%.
Hmm.
Can you guess what was the repeat ratio for Healthians? I don't know about currently till the time when I was there.
Well, we have had this conversation, so yeah, I do have a rough sense. It was around 65 or to 70 odd percent, if I'm not
Yeah,
wrong.
67% repeat ratio,
Oh.
which we had validated data across from credit card payments to check. Okay.
Oh.
And the highest end of the customers, the ones who used to pay by credit cards, we had the highest repeat ratio with them.
Okay.
And another way of looking at this 5% number, rather than calling it a repeat ratio, I would honestly call it a non-repeat ratio. So out of 20 patients who are coming, only one patient is coming back to you.
Yeah.
That doesn't speak well of your brand or anything for that matter. Okay. So, and I think that's where the biggest opportunity and challenge is there. You have to think from the end customer's point of view. Now, an end customer does not have any knowledge about what does a test involve, what goes into it, what's good testing, what's bad testing. And to be honest, in my experience, even most doctors don't understand.
Okay.
They have a broad sense of what is a good test, what is a bad test, what is a good lab, bad lab, but they don't have any idea about what is good quality or not.
Hmm.
So by and large, how do patients decide or how do customers decide that what is a good lab or what is a bad lab or what's a good brand?
Correct.
It comes down to two aspects. One is look and feel. What do they see with their five senses?
Okay.
The impression of quality. And second is reliability. So impression of quality, I would say, particularly in a at home brand, a home pickup brand that we were creating. For us, the phlebotomist who is going home to the customer, who's going to pick up the sample, is the only experience which the customer has with the lab.
Correct.
So for the customer, the phlebotomist who's coming home is the brand.
Mhm.
Did he come on time? Did he speak well to me? How was he dressed? Did he look knowledgeable? What kind of kit did he use? How did he open his bag? Was he neat and clean in the way he managed his interaction? How quick was it? Did he ask me the right questions? Did he talk to me in Hindi or in English? You can go on and on and on. But that one phlebotomist who's walking into that customer's house is the brand, is the moment of truth for that customer.
Exactly.
So anything and everything that you have to do has to start from there and build backwards.
Understood.
The problem with most labs which I have worked with, which I have seen, is they're very internal looking. They're not at all focused on the end customer. So even if you look at the packages of many of the labs, they're designed from what will make my machine more efficient.
Understood.
They are not designed from what does the customer need. So for instance, I don't remember the test now, it's been a while for me. We found this one package common across many labs. Why? Because that same machine could also do an iron test. So they were giving an iron test as a part of that package.
Understood.
And after talking to hundreds of customers, not a single one of them wanted that iron test. Okay. So that is one aspect to be able to, the opportunity of going online is that you have a direct connection with your end customer. That you have data coming in about the end customer, which you will never otherwise be able to capture.
Correct.
However, most of us continue to use old world practices to deal with the online environment. Okay. Let me give you another example of this from another industry. Okay. So in one of the ventures where I worked with a fashion startup, which was trying to build a brand, an online fashion brand. They had been at it for 3 years. They were fairly decently successful, but not to a level where they would want to go. I walked into that company and I asked that I want to speak to, and I want to go across and meet some customers. They were all shocked because in the 3 years of existence, nobody had ever met a customer. They didn't even know who their main customers were. Okay. Because that was the opportunity that they were losing. Because that's a typical offline behavior. That I have I'm a company, I'm a fashion company, I have distributors, I'll sell through the distributors. That's a typical offline behavior. In an online environment, you cannot use the same rules. You have to change. Because you have a direct interaction with the customer. And the customer expects that direct interaction. The customer is no longer interacting with a offline brand where you'll talk to the lowest level first, then the next level, then the next level. When I'm doing an online interaction, I expect that you address my query now. You give me the best possible service now.
Exactly.
Okay. So unless your business is designed for that, to be able to handle that, it is bound to fail. You will not be able to build the brand that you're looking at. And that's why the 5% number. You will be able to get that lead. Getting a lead is not difficult. Okay, because when you dangle a carrot in front of the customer, especially for a non-critical test, they will take the carrot. If you offer an HbA1c test for 100 rupees, you will have a line of people who will want to do that test. Okay. But what will be your repeat rate? Who will get an HbA1c test done? Typically a diabetic patient or a pre-diabetic patient.
Exactly.
If my HbA1c numbers are off, if the numbers are not consistent from one test to the other test, I'm not going to come back to you. Okay. So I would say 2 aspects of brand building, which was look and feel of the brand. And second is reliability. How often are you delivering on your promise? If you said that the guy will come at 6 a.m., is he actually reaching there at 6 a.m. to pick up the sample? Okay. Imagine you are a customer. Let's say I have a test to be done at 9 a.m. and I've been, I'm waiting. I normally wake up at 6:30 a.m. For the last 2.5 hours, I've been waiting to get my morning tea. And instead of 8 a.m. when the guy was supposed to come, he's coming at 10 a.m. For the lab, you start to feel that, listen, the guy went. Variation hota hai. Previous sample mein time zyada lag gaya. You have all kinds of excuses to justify how you could not go on time to that customer. But what experience did you leave that customer with? Okay. So reliability is here. And if you apply the same to yourself, if your taxi is late, if your driver is late, if your maid is late, how will you react?
Exactly.
Nobody likes uncertainty. Whether it's a phlebotomist coming to my home, nobody likes to come into your center and sit in a queue. Okay. So currently, most of the processes, I would say, across labs are not designed with the customer in mind. They're designed to make your own lab and your people more efficient, or in another way, put it, to save costs.
Understood.
Okay. So the first paradigm that you need to shift from an online perspective is that stop saving costs, start building revenues, start building customer experiences. Okay.
Understood. But Anuj, sorry, yeah, please continue.
No, go ahead.
So I was saying that you talked about online, home sample collection, and right, the survey findings that you have presented in the presentation. There also people mentioned that the likelihood that they would go for home sample collection now, post COVID-19 pandemic, has increased by 89%, right? So now it becomes a very high touch point or a brand exposure for diagnostic centers. So in that context, how do people who have not done it before, home sample collection, go about creating a brand there? Because for the uninitiated, this could be overwhelming experience to sort of look after every parameter, every aspect of the service there, right? So what are the key 3 or 4 things that you would say are, the diagnostic center should totally focus on? They can't sort of, afford to fall short on those parameters.
Sure. So I would say if you keep it simple, for somebody who's, the first and foremost thing would be the phlebotomist should reach on time.
Okay. Punctuality.
And if you are not sure if he's going to be reach on time, do not commit to a specific time. Okay. So if you're saying 6 o'clock, he better be there at 6 o'clock. If you cannot say that, say 6 to 7, but don't say 6 o'clock.
Understood.
Okay.
So basically expectation management.
Right. So do your planning of, so what the lab will typically end up doing is it will load the phlebotomist.
Oh.
Okay. So, and leave it to the phlebotomist to figure out how will he manage to do all the sample collections. That simply doesn't work if you want to build a brand. If you want to make short-term revenue, it will work. Okay.
Understood.
So you have to load him give him only that many samples which he can reliably pick up in that much time. Okay. Which means what? Which means hiring more phlebotomists and wasting capacity. And it is okay if your phlebotomist is not occupied fully. You have to come out of that cost mindset and move to the service mindset. Okay. That is the first and foremost thing which I would say. Okay. Second thing I would say.
Hey, Anuj, Vidur here. Sorry, just a quick question on that. In your opinion, do you think patients are ready to pay more for punctuality?
No. That's the basic hygiene.
Understood.
Patients don't pay you more per transaction. Patients
We pay, once upon a time, we used to pay more for Indigo always being on time. Na?
But Indigo, see, again, what you need to understand is that how do you make money? You make money by, instead of 100 rupees, making 150 rupees from the same customer and keeping your repeat rate at 5%? Or do you make money by keeping that 100 rupees and taking your repeat rate to 70%? So Indigo did not make money or become the largest airline in India by charging more. It's simply that I will pay the same amount. I will still pick the cheapest flight. But if there's a choice between SpiceJet and Indigo, I would pick Indigo simply because it's more reliable. Okay. So calculating price per transaction is a big mistake. Your customer, if you're looking at
customer lifetime value is what matters.
Value, or even at least a repeat value of the customer.
Yeah.
And it's not only that patient. There are people in this business. In this business, there's so many repeats. So many word of mouth references which happen. Like if I've got myself tested and I'm happy, I will tell everybody in my family that whenever the next test comes up, to get it done from there. I'll tell my neighbors also for that matter. Because in the absence of any clear metrics or judging what is a good lab, what is a bad lab, then you rely on people, on word of mouth.
Exactly.
Okay. So that's what I would say to summarize that, don't look at it at a transaction level, look at it at an overall level. Money will follow.
Understood. And that in a way sort of, links up to my next question, because given that COVID-19 pandemic has brought in so much of hardships, people are not very sort of receptive of the idea of making investments wherein the ROI is not crystal clear, so to say, right? So this question is for both Anuj and Vidur. So how do you sort of make this trade-off, or how do you sort of define your ROI so as to capture the whole essence of building a brand and making the investment seem worthwhile? Whosoever could want to go first. Yeah. Go ahead.
So
Anuj, go ahead. Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So yeah, basically, it's a multifactorial trade-off. Yeah, it's actually not just a revenue and cost trade-off. It's a it depends. A lot of it depends on how much time do you actually have to get that ROI, right? Like for example, which eventually comes down to, as a business, how much are you willing to invest um in perception of quality, right? Like I do the test, Anuj does the test, my guy shows up, 2 hours later, Anuj's guy shows up on time. We both we like, our lab quality parameters are exactly the same, but the patient quality differs. Now, Anuj has the ability to invest 20% more than me today. Hence, he retains that customer, whereas I go to some other customer. Now, it depends on, like how much of a runway you have. Like, can you even sustain that quality? It's people talk a lot about mindset, but I don't think it's a mindset. I think mindset is a consequence of your circumstances. And in situations where you have, like, I come from a very privileged kind of background, right? Like, I am basically leveraging on the hard work of my parents, right? Mahajan Imaging was not started by me. It was not made into a brand by me. Like, I kind of came and then professionalized and tried to scale up. So those were my circumstances. Hence, we can invest like 5 people whose job it is to make sure that a doctor meets a patient every time they come into our center. Others may not have that privilege. So I think if as business owners, you in your mind, you need to allocate some amount of quality cost. Yeah, 5% of my revenue I will keep for just patient centricity, and I will not expect a return on it. So instead of having, and you can figure out 5% very easily from your day-to-day kharchas. Like, there's a ridiculous amount of money that we spend on things that maybe we don't need to spend. Like, most of us do search engine optimization, but maybe not in the proper way. Like, I don't even remember when was the last time I had a call with my so-called SEO team, who I give like, some 20,000 rupees per month or something. Instead of that, I can invest that money elsewhere. So I would say look inwards and try to figure out some amount of budget that you can invest on customer centricity, and then go from there. But if you're thinking that you'll do it without investing money, then it's not going to work, in my opinion. Anuj, what do you think here?
Okay, so
Mr.
I think I'll
Suresh?
take you back.
Mr. Suresh?
Yes, Prashant.
Yeah, hi, this is Prashant here. So I'm from Bangalore. The brand name runs in the M2B lab.
Okay.
So Anuj, I had one question. So in the last, I would like to asking him. So which he was thinking in the mind perspective of the serving the customer in terms of the B2C model, which I'm in this industry from last 8 years, which I started with passion to driving reaching the society in the right way and helping them in the problem solution actually.
Okay.
And we have started in the 2016 home collection service, which Anu says that we have burned many huge category of the finance in the home collection service, and we have picked up in the year of 2019 actually. And I agree that really the customer perspective is very much high, but how do you sustain that in the diagnostic area, in the pandemics, not only the COVID part, sir, I'm talking about. So how do you think that in the future part, next 2025, what is the situation of the diagnostic area of the all the category of the in pan India actually? So since it is a home collection is trending out, agree, but how do we increase our channel partner, lab partners to be focused into the supporting area actually?
Okay, so where do I start? There were multiple questions going.
So Anuj, let me just sort of set the context. So Prashant sir, we will address your question once we have completed our discussion, and we will have a dedicated Q&A round there. and then again we will take your question on priority there. So Anuj, please
Definitely,
continue with
definitely.
our earlier conversation.
Okay. So we were talking about investments and being wary about investing in the on customers right now.
Correct.
So I'll say 2-3 things here. First of all, 2020 is all about survival. The only agenda or the only goal of 2020 for both individuals and businesses is to survive.
Exactly.
Right. So any other strategy at this point of time would be senseless if you do not have the cash flow to survive. So if you don't have the cash flow, focus on doing whatever it takes for you to have sufficient cash flow, sufficient ability to take care of your expenses. Because put yourself in the customer's shoes. Would you want to get tested right now? What is in the interest of the customer right now? Is it in the interest of the customer to do elective tests? Is it in the interest of the customer, no matter how much you push or how much the doctor pushes, to get themselves tested for non-critical parameters? The reality for our diagnostic market, at least in the preventive space, is that most of the tests are simply not required.
Understood.
We sell them, we market them, and that's why people get them done. Okay. So at this point of time, if you think from a customer's point of view, from the number of doctor interactions have gone down, the number of stepping out has gone down, the risk level has gone down. When I'm not going out, when I'm sitting at home, my stress levels to some extent have gone down. I'm eating much better than what I normally eat. So my chances of falling sick or my chances of requiring help also slightly lower. So do not expect to be able to trigger demand on your own. Demand will trigger when it will trigger. Do you have the ability to survive through this and wait this period out till the time the demand picks up? Okay. So if you don't have the ability, please do whatever it takes to cut your costs, etc., to make sure that you're able to survive. But if you have the ability and if you have cash flow available, if cash is not a problem and you have the ability to invest, there is no better time than this than to invest in building your brand. Because literally nobody else is doing anything. So you have undivided attention from everyone available, whether that translates into customers or not. In fact, don't even expect that to translate into actual revenue or business. But the kind of brand building which you can do right now is amazing. And how can you do that brand building? So far, people mix brand building with sales. Hidden agenda every time you're doing something to build something around your brand is how much impact will it have on my sales.
Okay.
Reality is that building a brand should ideally not have any impact on your immediate sales. If it is having an immediate impact on your sales, then you're not building a brand, then you're building sales. Nothing wrong in it, but let's be clear about it, then you're not building a brand. So for building a brand, you have to choose what plank are you building it on. Okay. Ultimately, what is a brand? A brand is, I would say, 3 or 4 stages to it, that people know about me, have tried my product, and now have started repeat buying from me. So when you do know about me campaigns, normally you do lead generation campaigns. So they're all sales.
Exactly.
Okay. Have you ever done a know about me campaign where you're not selling? So even to think about that might seem very difficult.
Exactly.
Trial right now may not happen at all because market demand is not there. Okay. So awareness, trial, repeat. There is some possibility for customers who already been part of your network. There is a possibility that some of them, when they have to get their limited tests done, they might trust you and get those tests done. Some of them. So coming back to brand building, ultimately it is about how you demonstrate that you care for the customer. So can you get in touch with your customers, for example, and just call your ex-customers and ask them how are they doing? Are they at, call them and ask them, ठीक ठाक है सब कोई, फैमिली में सब ठीक है, कोई डर आपको लग रहा है, कोई myths, concerns हैं, just address them.
Exactly.
Share that number with them that you can reach out to me whenever you want, when you have any question or doubt about COVID testing. Okay. This is a time to build that relationship with them, which you will never get again when you go back to your regular sales.
Exactly.
So brand building is simple. You demonstrate care. You demonstrate that your ability to fulfill on a particular promise that you're making. Okay. If your promise so far has been that you are the lowest cost provider, then what can you do to provide the lowest cost COVID testing to them? Okay. So I'm saying a few different things, but I'm saying if you have the resources, build your brand now. Connect back with your customers. Forget about sales. If you don't have the resources, cut down on whatever you need to do for at least for the next 1 year till the time the demand picks up.
Understood. Great words, Anuj. But incidentally, again, you talked about, wait till the demand picks up. So that is a question I think that is on the top of mind of everyone here. As you know, what are the avenues or silver linings, so to say, wherein there is still some semblance of demand which is coming in, and what could those avenues be? Is it to go the aggregators with, have tie-ups with online aggregators like 1mg, Book My Labs, or others, or other mediums? And here again, I would like to hear your opinion and followed by Vidhu.
Okay, so in my opinion, when you have capacity right now available, there is absolutely, and you have the systems in place to be able to handle that capacity, there is absolutely no harm at all in tying up with the aggregators, because when demand is less, it is more likely to go to the more branded names. That is one. Second, I would also say if you have the connections to get business from smaller cities. The infrastructure, lab infrastructure in smaller cities is usually terrible, and most of those samples come to the cities for testing, and there are massive delays, etc., in being able to do that. You could start building a network in a satellite city, in a nearby city, or wherever maybe your family is there, some connections you have in particular city. Unfortunately or fortunately, in many smaller cities in the country, nobody is following any social distancing norms or whatsoever. So the COVID impact really hasn't been seen there yet in terms of people's mindset.
Okay.
So that's the report which I'm getting from across UP in particular. Okay. That smaller cities are simply not taking any precautions. They're not wearing masks. They're not doing anything. So there is opportunity.
Understood. So Vidhu, what is your perspective on this, specifically in the context of imaging, right? Because in case of pathology, you do have the option of increasing your reach by getting samples from, say, distant areas. But radiology is in a way limited to the areas that can cater.
Correct. And, that is the challenge. Like, I wish, I could give some magical answer that, you can, start doing this and so test, or, start marketing something that, but the unfortunate reality is that besides trying to cut cost and trying to build a relationship with your patient, which is Anuj beautifully put that. Besides that, some of the things that we are doing, I can tell, we are revamping our corporate connections. We now have this belief that COVID is going to be with us for at least 3 to 6 more months. So that means it will be part of our life. And that means, we need to start doing what we were doing earlier. So we are revamping all our relationships with corporates, restarting some of the preventive health checks. We're trying to be very outright about the precautions that we are taking, all the safety precautions. We're trying to remind people that it's still important to get your scans on time. It's still important to get your mammographies done if you're a lady, for breast cancer screening and all of that. So it's like, we are trying to restart our engine, because you need to realize that in a business like ours, there is the patient level hesitancy. There is also the healthcare worker level hesitancy, right? Like patients don't want to come to us. Even our employees feel a little jittery when too many people show up. So those are things. But I think being, and also another thing is a very important thing which neither of us has touched upon till now, is that how as an organization you treat your employees during these times will drive a lot of success or failure that you have in the future. I fundamentally believe this, because this is a time where, for lack of a better word, everyone is screwed. And how you treat people who you have built your organization with at this time will drive their loyalty. They will be nicer to the patients that show up. They will be, like all the there has to be a happy feeling. And I think that is extremely critical. So of course you can start doing CT scans for COVID patients. Like literally we've started that we have one very small center in West Delhi, in Bali Nagar, which only has a CT scanner. And we have now dedicated that center for outpatient COVID positive chest CT scanning, right? Because we realized that if I am COVID positive and I need to get a HRCT chest, there's no place that will happily take me, right? Outpatient imaging centers will just refuse. Hospitals may, it's another, like I said, buzzard. So we started this facility. So these are, kind of innovative things, but very, very geography specific. We were lucky to be able to dedicate one entire center to this. And it's not like, we have now queues of people there who we can scan all day long. It's just 2 or 3 patients a day. But I think the time for lethargy is over, right? Like this is not going away. Like in my mind, I had thought 30th June things will be fine, and then on 30th May I realized कि नहीं यार 30th June so definitely. So I think we all as business owners, as people who run these organizations, need to come up and start figuring things out. Amazing example Anuj gave. Just call up all your patients and say, "Aap kaise ho?" And if you need anything, we're there. We are all healthcare workers at the end of the day. So my single line advice would be that get activated. And I know of many pathology lab owners who are now selling PPE. I don't blame them at all. Many people are now selling. A good friend of mine created his own RT-PCR kit. I don't know how he did it, but so people are evolving, and this is definitely the time for just knocking your head and thinking all the time, so what more can I do? And you're on mute, Suresh.
So those are quite useful insights, and I hope our attendees of this webinar actually will be able to take some concrete action to navigate through these tough times. Now, actually, I'm going to throw the floor open for Q&A from attendees. And Mr. Prashant, sir, you had asked a question which you couldn't answer at that time. Would you like to ask the same question again?
Yeah. I just would like to address the same question to the sir. Sir is there? I hope so. Okay. So I just wanted to one question I would like to address to the speaker. So saying that, how do you address? So these are all online platforms has been came recently. So since my journey was last 8 years in this industry, and since we are doing all the B2B marketing also in the market in the Karnataka rural districts, and we are working close to the small and medium labs and medium hospital and big hospital in the Karnataka rural. So what do you think that of the next coming days? How do we, most of the paramedical staff or lab technician, how do we can cope up working with them as a collaborative model, actually, sir?
Okay, so let me rephrase the question to see whether I've understood it correctly or not. So yes, what you're saying is that in the next few years, how do you see the future of the diagnostic business, and how do we ensure that when we are phlebotomists, laboratory, or all the people working in this domain can work together in this new technology environment? Is that
Correct, sir. Correct. So
Yeah.
in terms of the technology and understanding model way, so where they can support each other and come forward for the collaboration. Actually, most of the lab when we approach for the because I am into the marketing area, when I went to go and approach for the collaboration for my company, so most of the they had been lose their interest to collaboration. So how do you see that? Because since you are in this industry, you've seen the various days in the industry. So that's the reason I just wanted to understand from your perspective how we can implement this collaboration, working together model.
See, for one, I think what Connected Edge is doing is absolutely in the right space then, because they get you to collaborate with each other while at the same time not competing with each other. So because if you directly go to your neighborhood lab, clearly you're first competitors before you can collaborate, because the patient has a choice to walk into that lab or your lab. So it'll be difficult for you to pull off collaboration at your own level unless you do it at a much wider level where a lot more people are involved onto that platform.
Yeah,
that is
okay, sir.
The second part I would say is from the people involved. Right now, each lab has its own phlebotomist. Each lab has its own different people, lab workers, etc., who are working. So the entire market is very fragmented. Now, is India at that stage where a phlebotomist could be an independent phlebotomist like in the US? I don't think we are there yet. Because the quality and level of phlebotomists that we have in the country, leave a lot to be desired, okay? Both in terms of maturity level as well as in terms of skill level. Could you create that? Could you create a phlebotomist as an entrepreneur? You possibly could, but will take a long time and effort before that actually happens. So I do see that at least another 5 years, if not more, for that to start happening to some extent. So I think the only way you could, counter large labs or aggregators would be by your local presence. Okay, there is sufficient business available in your local area, which if you serve well, you will do way better than if you try and spread your wings across to multiple areas. So I think more than collaboration, the first step is to be reliable.
I agree on the last word, which is reliable. So which I have done that in previous days with working with my own clients in the rural sector. So the reliable and trust factor, once we gain it, so we can do it. So because I was facing this huge challenge working with partnering with all the things, since I have already done the 4 to 5 collaboration in the Karnataka, so which it is running smoothly. But even though we want to make it that very open area, like technology partners are there when I am into the marketing, and even though we have run this e-commerce platform for our brand actually. And when I did that one, yes, there are more opportunities are there, but only the people should be accept in the same industry actually. So that then only we can able to see. No, I just wanted to see the growth of the industry has been little bit very slow for the healthcare in terms of what you're seeing in the hospital. Now the growth factor is very increasing highly in the hospital sector, sir. The same thing, if we can come up with the same idea in the diagnostic sector, so it can take in the larger way, where India also have a more opportunity for all the phlebotomists and as well as to the pathology, and who is running the diagnostic center, as well as they're owning the diagnostic partner also again.
Okay, I guess I don't have anything to say on top of that. Vidur, if you want to add something.
Yeah,
No,
definitely.
I think you answered it well. Yeah. Suresh, you're on mute here.
Shivam, could you help me with our attendees' questions?
Yes, Suresh. So we have a couple of questions that we have gotten from our partners, and I'll ask on behalf of them a few of those questions, and let's see if we can get the answers to those questions. So one of the questions that people are asking is, we talk about a lot about dependence of on doctor references, right? And in fact, we have included that in our PPT about 80% of the patients. So how can we sort of bypass that without investing much money? Like there is a healthiest model which reaches out directly to the patients. How can an individual diagnostic center also create their customer base? How can they bypass that route and reach out to their patients directly? That's the question.
Yeah, so I can take a shot at that.
Vidur, you're on mute.
Yeah, so I can take a shot at that, guys. Basically, the thing is, you have to start by knowing that bina mehnat ke you won't, like, nothing will happen. And by mehnat can either mean money or mehnat can mean like literally effort. And the fact that doctors control a lot of the mind space of patients is exists. Now, our approach at Mahajan Imaging is that we have a very, very wide referral base. So the challenge starts happening when you are dependent on 10 or 20 doctors in your neighborhood to send you work. And then if you send them one wrong report, or if there is one patient who was made to wait, or if there's even one unpleasant experience can negatively impact a significant portion of your business. So at Mahajan Imaging, we have, like I said, we have those four, five standalone centers. At these four standalone centers, the fifth one is the COVID wala, so I'll keep that out. At these four standalone centers, we get close to, I think, some maybe 8,000 patients. No, much more than that, actually. We get like say some 20,000 patients per month or something like that, and they come to us from 4,000 unique doctors across Delhi. Right now, that means that no doctor is sending me a lot of work, but a lot of doctors are sending me a little amount of work. Now, that is a good and a bad thing, right? The bad thing about it is that only a city like Delhi has that doctor capacity for me to be able to run my model, right? Like we opened a center in Gurgaon. Gurgaon probably has 500 doctors as opposed to Delhi's 15,000. Now my model fell flat in the sense that we didn't see the normal demand upsurge that we normally see when we open a new imaging center. But it was gradual, and then trust develops, and over a couple of years things kind of came to a level where now 250 300 different doctors send us work in our Gurgaon center. So the thing is that if you don't need a doctor to send you all their work, you just need a doctor to send you 10% of their patients, right? And if 1,000 people send you 10% of their patients, it's the same as whatever 100 people sending you all of their work. So that's the strategy that we apply, is to have a wider base. Now, that also means having 5,000 relationships, right? And not to not relationships in the financial sense, etc. That is like we are very proud of the fact that there's not even half a cent that goes to anyone from our company. But it's a relationship of the nature where when you see a critical finding, you genuinely call up the doctor and tell them, sir, आपके ये patient आए हैं, उनका intracranial bleed लग रहा है, क्या करें? Those kind of things are what matters. So it comes down to the same thing that Anuj has been also repeatedly saying, that if you do a good job and if you focus that good job on a very wide variety of patients, as wide as you can cater to, it will reduce your dependency on specific number of doctors, and hence kind of de-risking your business. The other cool approach I've seen now is with the whole telemedicine this thing coming up, that general physicians who were earlier to come on to teleradiology platforms, or even, I have seen doctors with 5 mobile phones, one with Zoom, one with WhatsApp video, one with, Hangouts, etc., so that the switching time is 0 between them. Amazing funda, right? People who were able to do that now. Earlier, you were a single doctor in Hoskars. Now you are seeing patients from, Srinagar to Kanyakumari. And that's how a brand is built. That's how you're known across the country. And those are revenue lines of the future. So de-risking on specific customer segments or specific doctor segments is the only way to, kind of come out of that conundrum also, in my opinion, at least.
Thanks, Vidhu. I'll just reach out quickly to Anuj for a follow-up. Anuj, you have seen the flip side of this.
Sorry, can you say that again, Shubham? I realized that I didn't hear. Sorry, were you talking to me?
So Vidhu, I said thanks for this. I wanted to reach out to Anuj and get his views as well, because he's on the flip side of this, right? He has created a brand which reached out to patient directly, completely bypassing the doctors in between, and started to get the demand directly from them. I think that is what our listeners want to understand now. Can a small diagnostic center create that kind of an image, that kind of a brand? What is the secret recipe to reach out? Like, I know that Anuj has already talked about this, but that's what we want to understand his views on as well. Anuj, over to you.
Sure. See, first of all, you have to understand that we didn't really bypass the doctor. For a long time, majority of the testing that we were doing was preventive testing, where the patient himself or herself had decided that let me go and get a test done. If the same patient had gone to a doctor, the chances of them coming to Healthians was much lesser. So the patient tends to go to the doctor recommended lab, even though there is a lot of suspicion now for a set of customers for the doctor's recommendation. But still, patients tend to go to that doctor because they don't want to create that dissonance. That if my doctor has said go to lab A, and if I go to lab B, then I'll have to go back to the doctor, and the doctor rejects it, and I'll have to get it done again. So, so that we are not really bypassing the doctor by and large. It's only after your brand becomes really big when people start coming to you even with doctor prescriptions in a larger number. Secondly, for building a brand, even if you look at, even if you, let's say, if you call Healthians a brand right now, even if you look at most of the new customer acquisition, it'll still be done on price. It'll be a price-based campaign that, get your test done on 500 rupees, etc. Because the first barrier that we're trying to cross with the customer is awareness and trial. With so much clutter, with so many labs, with so much going on in the customer's mind, your branding, etc., comes much later. The first thing is to, get the person to stop and pay some attention to you. So that attention part you can do actually much better than a larger lab, because being in a local area, actually, I would add to what Vidhu said. Vidhu said go wide with doctors, and I think it's great for going wide with doctors who can give you business. When it comes to going direct with customers, go as narrow as possible. Okay. So go as narrow as possible in your local area, and in that local area, bombard them with everything that you got. Okay. Because unless you break that inertia of not listening to you, not paying you any attention, you will not get business from them. Now you break this inertia through SMS, email, pamphlets, camps. All of that, most of the time, will be unproductive. But as you keep doing it consistently over a period of time, it'll start giving you the results. Okay. So it'll take some time to build that connect. It'll take some time to get that customer base going. For them to be aware of you and for them to risk a trial. You'll have to give them some promotion for them to risk that trial. Okay. So you have to understand the customer is when they are giving you that time, when they're coming and getting tested by you, they're doing you a huge favor. They had 100 other choices to go to, but they came to you. So by giving them a promotion, by giving them an offer which they cannot refuse, you are just valuing their time that point of time. So do not try to make money from the first transaction. Okay. Use that as your marketing spend to get the customer in, even if you have to spend money. Like if I have to give you a parallel example, completely different, is if you look at McDonald's. In McDonald's, you can buy that ice cream cone for 20 rupees. And that's probably what attracts a lot of customers to come in to try that ice cream cone. But they end up buying burgers and everything else. So to get that first customer, you will have to spend money, whether it's real money or whether it's perceived money. Most of the time, if you look at your test costs, your reagent cost will not be more than 25 to 30% of your actual pricing. So you can afford to give 400 rupees test at a cost of 100 rupees without incurring any loss on it. But you don't do that because you want to make money on every transaction. So for attracting the first customers, you could tie up with societies. You could for your patients, for your society particularly, this is an offer for the first test, first family member of for every household, one family member free. There could be multiple ways in which you could do this. So don't make money on the first customer, make money on the repeat business that you get from them. So B2C business is not built by getting money first and giving less value. B2C business is built by giving value first and then making money later. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah. I think that clearly succinct it. I think, and that is largely the part that we were discussing earlier. The challenges why smaller labs have to face is regarding the repeat ratio, right? How to get people back is something that I think this answers by building a great brand. Another question that we have gotten here, and Anuj, basically this covers what you talked about, is that brand building happens when you are present at every touch point and improving all of those touch points that you have with your patients. Specifically, you talked about your phlebotomist. And I think most of the diagnostic center today have their own phlebotomist. But what they want to understand is that, where are the opportunities? For a bigger brand, it's easy to train their phlebotomist, right? To sort of give them the set of rules that they have to follow. But for smaller diagnostics, I think those opportunities are just not there. How do they cope up with that, right? That is the question there. How does a smaller lab train their staff and on all the things that we have talked about, be it about technology, be it about the phlebotomist wearing the right clothes, the right set of tone, the right set of technology is being used? How do we ensure that a smaller diagnostic center gets that? And I think that's the question that a lot of people want to ask.
So frankly, I think it's much easier for a smaller lab to do this, because the problem is not in training the phlebotomist. The problem is in training yourself. You don't care. You really don't care. You don't care about quality. You don't care about the customer. You basically want to cut corners and get away with it. And you're hoping that you'll also build a brand in the process. It's not going to happen. So otherwise, if you have 5-6 phlebotomists and if you just checking on whether they've reached on time, it just takes a few phone calls, then you'll know. Okay. Whether they're wearing the uniform or not, all of those phlebotomists will typically come to your office first, or they can take a selfie and post it on your WhatsApp group. For a small business, for a small lab, you don't need any technology set up, nothing whatsoever. It's more of an intent to do it. If you have the intent, you will be able to do this and up and running in 1 week's time. No issues at all.
I very strongly agree with what Anuj is saying. I kind of have this issue almost with people who say mere phlebos achhe nahi hai, ya mera staff acha nahi hai, or like my people don't know how to talk or something like that. I like to everything starts by taking responsibility for your people. Although I'm sure everyone on this group right now would be doing all these things, but I think it's just a matter of and also one thing that we do is mystery shopping, right? So you tell your friend to you give them a checklist from before, not after, or that these are the 25 things I expect my people to do. Please see, like, go and experience an ultrasound and tell me if all of these things happened. So it doesn't take anything other than time, right? Like the same thing, you know, I know friends of mine who run labs, they do this for their phlebos all the time. If, you know, there's ever a doubt that comes in their mind that, okay, this one guy is not performing well, they will send that one guy to a relative's place, take feedback and all of that. It flows from intent. Like if you want to find faults in your own business, you can do it. You're the best person to be able to do it. And everything starts with that. So very, very strongly agree with what Anuj was saying. Yeah.
Understood. Another question that we have gotten here is that there's always a brand bias which is already in place and which sort of prevents a smaller diagnostic center to grow, especially now. Is that what do you do when your patient walks into a doctor and said that, you know, I have gotten this test done from XYZ lab, but the doctor will ask that, you know, from a CAP lab or NABL lab or HOD, or I want it from Mahajan, and ye kahan se karwa ke liye karke aaye ho, right? There's a bias there. Now, the question is that for a smaller diagnostic center, it's quite expensive to get these accreditations, right? So how do they find this brand bias from day one?
First of all, I don't think it's a bias.
This is a question for you.
Yeah, that'll be better.
Me? No, I see. I'm happy to answer. And the thing is that if this particular conversation should not happen more than once with one doctor. And what that means is the moment this happens to you, that a patient calls you up and says कि sir मेरे doctor तो कह रहे हैं कि ये तूने कहाँ से करा लिया test, the next immediate thing you should do is either take that doctor on a conference call or call up the doctor or go meet the doctor or go and ask them, you know, why do you not like me? What I've seen most people do is and you know, when I started working at Mahajan Imaging, I fell into this trap also कि नहीं यार उसकी तो ना उनके साथ setting है, right? And then you know it just finishes. But you have to, that is actually a opportunity for you to show off. Like if you are literally, and I was reading this question from I think Nishtha Diagnostics, that if you are truly CAP accredited and if you are the only CAP accredited lab in your city or in your area, or that doctor is catering to, you have the responsibility of calling up the doctor and saying ke sir matlab aapne meri report pe ungli kaise uthai, you know. That is the kind of arrogance, that is the only point in time where you can display that arrogance, right? Which is arrogance on quality, that sir, you tell me what did I do wrong, and 99.99% of the time you'll realize that, you know, the guy just says, oh acha aap khul gaye hain, okay, I didn't know. And 0.01% of the time that person will become your bhakt forever, because he will have some genuine technical query and you will be able to resolve that technical query, and then you will get all of their business. So I think these are opportunities. We have had it with us. We started running a center in Safdarjung Hospital. It was one of India's first public-private partnership centers, and doctors would throw our reports, you know, across the room कि ये private वालों से कहाँ से करा लाए आप and all that. But those were all opportunities that you know, we those were all opportunities that we presented, that presented to us to connect with those doctors. He said, you know, what did you find was wrong? So this is a very common problem, and the solution is also, at least in my mind, very straightforward. Just pick up the phone and call.
I think great answer.
It's also very difficult to implement.
Yeah, really helpful. True.
Okay.
So I'll leave the floor for more questions from our attendees. We can answer a few more questions before we wrap up. But I'll have one question that I want to ask both of you is that, you know, we are during going through a pandemic, right? And everyone basically, there's a lot of talk about customer behavior. Expectation is going to change, right? So how have you prepared? Because this question is primarily to you. How have you prepared yourself, or how have you prepared Mahajan Imaging to the ongoing customer expectation or changes in the customer expectation that are happening? Okay. And B is, what do you think the changes in long term?
Yeah, so I think, and I've been saying this at all webinars, the number one change we are trying to bring about in our company is we are trying to be very, very flexible. Flexible in terms of operations, flexible in terms of HR, flexible in terms of strategy, flexible in terms of technology, because we don't know. Like literally, if you were to ask me 3 days later, Vidur, what will be the timing of your center from say Monday, right? Whatever, 6th of July or whenever, yeah, Monday, 6th July, Vidur, what will be the timing of your defense colony center? I may not have an answer today. So that, because, I will judge based on what people tell me on Saturday and Sunday, what time I should open on Monday, because again, there is that same, match of demand and supply that I am always trying to cater to. So I think the number one thing we are trying to prepare for is flexibility. Most of our core management team now works from home. Much of our patient registrations are happening from people's homes. Our call center is totally decentralized. Like, we have 7 people in our call center, all 7 operating from their homes. It's just a lot of flexibility, and everyone know, our radiologists know that at night 8 a.m. they'll be told, at 8 p.m. they'll be told कि कल से शुरू करना है आना या नहीं करना है. So all of those things. So I think and it takes a lot of mind space to be thinking about this. Metro is not working in Delhi right now. A lot of, we need flexibility around picking up staff from different locations, bringing them here, and all of those things. So we are trying to be as flexible as possible to not let any opportunity go by. Yeah, so that's, and long term, so yeah, it's very difficult, Shubham, honestly, to comment on anything. I don't even know what long term means. Abhi to, 2 weeks seems like so far away. So, but definitely, one thing is for sure that the ways in which patient centricity was demonstrated earlier, which was literally गले नहीं लगाते थे पेशेंट को, बाकी सब कुछ कर देते थे. That is going to change a lot, because now it's more about providing the same level of care that you do to a patient. Like, we take a lot of pride in our crockery, in our coffee, in the way our tea is served and all those kind of things. And suddenly now nobody wants to touch that. Everyone wants that CCD ka chota sa cup. So it's varying at a very different level. I know I'm not answering the long term wala question, but frankly, it's a very difficult question also, Shubham, at this moment.
Yeah, completely agree. Anuj, what do you think changes now?
Yeah, so yeah, because I will not answer the short term, because I don't have a clinic or anything which I'm running, so it will not be correct for me to say or comment on that. In the long term, I think it will be a very clear trend towards formalization and organization. Bigger will become bigger. You will see a consolidation in the market. A lot of the smaller players who will not survive this. Both monetarily as well as in terms of the level of professionalism which the customers will start to expect in the future. The level of so online is not just a buzzword, because online really frees up your processes, makes your systems far more efficient. And going forward in another let's say 2-3 years time, you will find yourself that whoever is not adapting will start to get really squeezed out. And this year itself, a lot of people will get squeezed out, who will not be able to manage the cash flows, to keep the business going. Which would mean that the larger businesses are becoming larger. Actually, the prices may go up in the long term to be able to give this professional service to customers. So I do see a lot more customer orientation going forward, but at the same time, I do see it happening slowly. I don't think because of COVID, this trend will suddenly become very fast. It'll just be that there might be in another 2 years' time, we'll probably forget about COVID altogether. But the longer-term trend of expecting professionalism, being online, getting things done in an instant, not having to wait for too long, convenience, hassle-free, those things will pick up. So you will see online aggregators and businesses eating up more and more share. You will see the larger businesses probably growing at a bigger pace than the smaller businesses do.
Understood. I think that was a really great answer. So I think we have a few more questions. I think if you have any more questions from attendees, we will be love to answer that. And to the attendees.
Shubham, I actually have to run here. Shubham, I have to run. Is it if I will just write my email address here? If anybody like, I don't know how much I actually know, but if anyone wants to talk about all this stuff, please feel free to write to me. This was fun, yeah. Thank you so much, Suresh, Shubham, and the entire team for putting this together. So I hope it's okay if I leave, na? Gali to nahi doge.
Yeah.
Thanks, Anuj. Nice.
Absolutely great speaking to you. We should be in touch separately as well.
Yes, definitely. Thanks. See ya, guys.
All right. If we have that, I think otherwise
I think there are no more questions, so we can end the session.
Yeah. Anuj, just Prashant here. I'm just so just before that, in the last minute, in the
I can't hear you.
The online will become more the important coming days. So again, since we are already doing the home collection with the aggregators again, so we are giving a third party all those things in pan India and connecting with the local labs and giving it the more number of the loads, sampling all those things. So just wanted to, we are discussing overall like how to avoid the doctor cuts, all those things. So what is your opinion to say improvise ourselves into the diagnostic area?
No, so so if are you asking what is my opinion on doctor cuts, or I didn't really clearly get the question.
No, I'm just telling it. So as Shubham has been explained that saying that doctor cuts is how we can avoid the doctor cuts, and there's a very clean answer has been given by the Virad, so image thing Mahajan image consultant. So just wanted to check with you that overall perspective of the diagnostic industry, so where it can be taken into the next level and how we can improvise ourselves into the service sector. So it is really diagnostic is a purely service area. So how you want to just suggest us to improve, pull our socks into the service area actually?
Okay, so I'm from when I broadly the question I get is that where do I see the diagnostic industry future in terms of where the growth will occur, and what will you do to tap that growth? Is the question?
Yeah, absolutely. You had been shorted very clearly.
Okay, so my sense is that the next level of growth will come from smaller cities, tier 2, tier 3 cities. And that's where now a huge amount of money in terms of earning is being generated, but facilities and infrastructure are way behind. Okay. So that's one clear opportunity. While bigger cities will continue to grow. So while growth will be everywhere, I do see tier 2, tier 3 cities to be far more effective. Bigger cities, the challenge that you will have is while the demand will grow, you'll also see a lot of suppliers grow as well. There was a time 7-8 years back when the number of labs was rather limited, and most labs used to run around at least 60% plus capacity utilization at the minimum. Now the capacity utilization of labs is going down because there is an oversupply in the market. Because it's easy to start a lab business, but it's not easy to sustain and generate that kind of demand. It takes a huge amount of focus effort to do that. However, that opportunity which was there 7-8 years back in larger cities is now there into tier 2, tier 3 cities. So if you could leverage that, if you could do something about that, that would be one huge area I see. Secondly, in terms of imaging side of it, I think imaging is still quite capacity constrained, but it is also investment heavy. That is something which requires a lot more entrepreneurs and a big heart as well, who are willing to take that risk and the investment to get the imaging side going. So I might be
Great.
completely wrong. It's been a couple of years since I'm out of the industry, so my trends may not be in the right.
Okay. Great, Anuj. You had been given me very clear information. In fact, before COVID, we are planning to tier 2, tier 3 cities. Already, our plan is established, and few of the clients we are already started working it. So really good. So what you had been told me, it is really we are seeing smaller growth in a COVID area. I hope so. I'm in right track. So I would like to connect you in email communication. If you can drop me the chatbot in the email, so it will be great, Anuj. I think Suresh, it is
Sure.
a great job. I think you had been circulated email communication, all of us. So, but it is really getting together in the one platform in this scenario. Great.
Sure.
Thank you, Prashant.
Thank you,
Thanks for your
Prashant.
kind words. And we wish you the best in your endeavor as well.
Absolutely.
So thanks, Anuj. Thanks a lot for your time today. We hope our attendees had a great time today, and they will take back some insights that will help them prepare in a better way for the upcoming times. And we hope all the attendees had a great time and would have key takeaways that they can implement in their operations. We would be coming back to you with further ideas in terms of what do you want to listen on, and we will be conducting more such seminars. Thanks a lot for your time today. Thank you.
Yeah, Anuj, you are available in LinkedIn. I hope so. Correct? Anuj,
Yes, I'm there on LinkedIn. You can connect to me. Thank you.
Yeah. I just I was in management of Indian Institute Lucknow. No, actually.
Yeah.
I have just sent it a request to you by Prashant. Just we'll connect through LinkedIn.
Definitely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Thanks, Anuj. Thanks a lot
Thank
for
you,
your
everyone.
time.
We'll also be sharing a recording of the session, and we hope to interact more, organize more such sessions in the future. Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Thank you.